All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for tuning in and staying on. We got some great guests coming up, and I'm going to introduce him. I've known him for almost 20 years and worked with him on different projects and was part of the Building Industry Association, and he was part of that. And he's an astute gentleman who's the publisher, president, and CEO of a company that's called Peninsula Publishing, and handles a bunch of different magazines, but he's involved in a couple projects that we've been involved with over the years, and I thought I'd bring him on and get an update of what's happening, and it's pretty good. I'd like to introduce Mr. Nick Slevin. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Rob. It's very nice to be back on the show, and thank you very much for having me on.
You're very welcome. I know when you and I talked recently, you got some new projects, and some are going on from the project long time ago, which was, I'll let you talk about the ABC Green Homes project, and your new one that's happening out in Terra Verde. I guess that's the name it's going to be. But you also want to bring some insight that we want to pick your brain after about the home building industry, because you're involved with that very heavily in publishing with them. Lots of new things. And so why don't you start to tell us what you've been doing and bring us up to speed?
No problem. Well, my name is Nick Slevin, and I am the publisher at Builder Media, which is the business that belongs to Peninsula Publishing as the holding company. Builder Media is our on-air, as we're known around the industry. We reach over 300,000 home building professionals every month through our various magazine platforms, Builder and Developer, Green Home Builder, and then another 144,000 via our American infrastructure platforms. So we've been publishing now since 1990, and we publish magazines and newsletters and websites. We also developed the ABC Green Home project, which we launched in 2010, and we started building very green demonstration homes using our advertisers' building materials. I guess I must have been a disappointed home builder in a previous life. Based on the feedback and the success of the first one, we continue to push forward, and we've developed 4 to date, and we just recently launched start the ball rolling on the 5th one, and which will be virtual this year and built on site in Temecula, California next year. The goal being to beat the Title 24 building code, which is California's challenging building code, residential building code and standards. Normally we do that by about 40%. Not sure if we'll still be able to pull off quite that big a margin, but we're going to try.
And you get a lot of press from the media, from TV and all, and it's been a success over the years. And it's great. It's great for the people who help contribute to that project, and they show their products off, and a lot of people learn a lot of stuff from that. So tell us a little bit how ABC Green Building started with the house and where it is now, and some more information on that.
Well, we were, it began with a good buddy of mine, a guy called John Morton. He was working for Southern California Edison, and they were doing a lot of advertising and marketing of the state's various energy programs through the building industry using our platforms. And he and I were good buddies. I'm a former soldier. He's a former Marine. We're hanging out in a dive bar in Newport Beach, and I was complaining to him during the back of a very boring football game, Super Bowl game, and I was talking to him about how all the projects that came across our desk for consideration of inclusion in Green Home Builder magazine, one of our titles, were invariably, mansions with a couple of solar panels on the roof, and they didn't really do much to pick any of the real issues in terms of green boxes or high performance home building. So he laughed and he said, "Why don't you build one yourself or design one yourself? Have one of your architect buddies design a house." And I thought, gosh, that's not a bad idea. So on the back of that bit, I went back to my office and got our team around the table, and we came up with the American Buildable Certified Green Home project. And it was designed to demonstrate best practice in high-performance home building, design, architecture, construction, materials, and technology to a growing audience of home building professionals. And this was back in 2010. So I went out to a firm called KGY Group, a very well-known architectural firm, a guy called Manny Gonzalez, and he agreed to design a virtual house. And we got started inviting our advertisers who'd like to be part of the rendered into the virtual house which we were going to share in the magazines and on the website and the newsletters and so on. And I kept my buddy John appraised of our progress. And about 2 months into this, he called me up one afternoon and he said, "Hey, I wanted, if you wouldn't mind, if the Southern California Edison Company actually built this house." And I was very pleased and surprised and, of course, delighted. And so that's what we did. They leased some land at Great Park in Irvine. And we went ahead and we built ABC Green Home, which is now referred to as ABC Green Home 1.0. And we had 30,000 people come through it, members of the public, over the next 2 years. And then it was dismantled and it was rebuilt on a site in Santa Ana that was provided by Habitat Orange County. And we built that house back into 2 houses, which were then provided to disabled and veteran families. And we went on to do 2.0. And so that's how it got started, with a big endorsement from a huge utility, which really helped the project come to life. And they've been part of it ever since. I'm very pleased to say. So that's the genesis of the ABC Green Home project. And an unlikely but welcome start it was, I must say. And we were very pleased with the industry reception and the public's reception. We got quite a lot of recognition, won a bunch of prizes, got a couple of plaques on the wall from the U.S. Congress, and you know how it goes. And I think one of the things that we did that was useful was we leaned into having the project certified independently by various agencies that do that, whether it's in the EPA's Indoor Air Plus or National Green Building or Energy Star or indeed WaterSense. The first house was LEED Platinum, which is the very high bar for energy efficiency certifications, and we had I think 6 or 7 advanced energy certifications on the building, which was really verified proof of performance, which is great from our partners and for the participants and the design team. So proof of concept, if you like,
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's how the ball got rolling, and we just kept going and changing it and improving it and tweaking and refining and massaging it and growing the platform and trying different architecture and that's sort of basically how it has evolved to where we're about to start our 5th one, 15 years later.
So the question I was going to ask you was to pick your favorite child, basically, which is to say, what is the technology that you feel like benefited the most from this sort of high impact visibility, and what do you feel like you brought to the world, kind of in terms of awareness?
Well, I think fundamentally, the home building industry has always looked at with suspicion at what's generally referred to as green home building, and I've always felt that that shouldn't be the case, because the home buying public is very interested in the things that make a house perform better. Health and wellness. The COVID really played into that. Folks who had better indoor air quality benefited, and homes that are independently certified and that were built with a bit more care and a bit more consideration to materials quality and the way homes are constructed and the design of the houses and the slightly more performance thinking going into them at the design level and executed through construction, those homeowners are better off. And of course, I think that was borne out when the appraisal community largely started to ascribe a higher value in resale to independently certified homes down the road when they were up for sale. So a house built in the same school district by similar home builders, one is certified and one is not. The certified house tends to have a higher value because of the effort that went into it initially. And I always thought that was sort of the tipping point where the industry that I work in, the home building industry, would really get on board. And it largely has. And I think it was just, bottom line thinking, and it's been really helped a lot by the colossal interest in this from the public and from people. They want to know what you're bringing to the table. They're going to make a huge investment in a piece of property and buy a house from a builder. They're really interested in knowing, how does that house work and how am I going to be able to live in it? Does it do the things I want it to do? going to keep my family safe in a fire? Is it energy conscious? Does it sip water? Does it sip electricity? Will it protect us in a wildfire? These are all really important, fundamental, questions. And the industry has really stepped up, particularly here in Southern California, where we've been obliged to lean into this very heavily, as evidenced by the misery and the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the fires that we're still recovering from. So I think the things that have benefited, there's not really any one thing that has benefited. I think just raising in general the profile of high performance home building for its own sake, because it's been of interest to so many people collectively, individually, and otherwise, has really helped, I think, reinforce within the industry that it's a thing. It's not a fad. It's really a thing. And we've been publishing Green Home Builder magazine for the last 21 years to prove it.
Well, Nick, one of the things that I believe, and this is just for me, but I'm sure it's other people think the same way. The most expensive things that most people own are houses. And operating, I'll call it the word operating or living in a home costs money. Aside from insurance and all the other things you got to do, electric utilities, and there's people want a house, as you said, that have all the things of comfort and protection and all that. But they also want a house that's money efficient as well. They don't want a big, gigantic. That's how solar got into the business. Hey, we're going to cut your rates down, and nothing. You generate your own best. Same with the water. Use smart controllers for irrigation. It'll control how much water that you put down and only what you need, not just what you throw down every single day. Those, I think, are big important factors that help the industry, the building industry, move a little bit more forward. I was on the National Association of Home Builders Water Technology Group, and we went through lots of stuff. And one of my things that I talked to with people from ResNet or Leeds or whatever, I would really love to see one standard that incorporates all the things that should be incorporated instead of having all these different organizations, because it's hard to get people to understand what's the differences of, you get a house that's LEEDs approved, you get one that's FERS approved, you get one that's EPA approved, and they have different point systems and things of that sort. And it makes it a little confusing in the building industry of which one are you going to follow. Maybe it's maybe the builders do certain ones for back east versus what they do out here in California or in Arizona. But how do you see the industry looking at all that? Because I was on the board, as you know, with BIA for many years. But how do you see that moving forward? What do you see the industry doing?
Well, in terms of certifications, we lean in very heavily to that. I've always said, look, if you're going to take the time to build a better house, spend a little bit of extra money and have it certified. That means that an independent organization, whether it's ResNet, EPA, GEMS, Home Innovation, NGBS, or Greenpoint rated, Wells Within Your Walls, whomever, has stood behind your project, your process. They've looked at your design, your architecture. They've seen how you built the house. It's been tested. It's been verified. And so your claims are now being supported by an independent third-party agency that has stood up behind your project. And that last little bit is the critical component. What separates some builders from other builders. And that little bit, that last thing, very important. And more builders are realizing that and are doing it. From the ABC Greenhouse point of view, we decided to make this a really important pillar. So we started showing off pretty early. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not a home builder, although we've been supporting the home building industry and publishing Builder Developer and Green Home Builder magazine since 1990. We decided we were just going to deploy every available certification and share how that went very transparently across our platforms with the industry, with the audience, with our subscribers and readers. So the first one had about 6 certifications, and the second one had about 7. And the fourth one, which we built at altitude because we're really showing off. Apparently, it's very easy to build a net zero LEED platinum house at sea level. It's a bit more complicated when the house is at 6,000 feet, and it might be 30 degrees in the morning and 80 degrees at noon, and it has to readjust itself to accommodate change in climate. But that house had 10 advanced energy certifications. So for the next one, we're going to do 12 because we can, and anybody can. That's success. But then we're in the business of talking about this and making it's a demonstration home project. So our team is bringing on, a special folks who can help us work our way through the, the very involved processes that each one of these certifications requires. And it keeps us on our toes. But again, ultimately, it's verified proof of performance. And why we're doing that is so that any design team building any type of project, whether it's a small family, father and son, or mother and daughter home building team, for that matter, building custom homes, or it's a big rock production builder building thousands of homes, can also employ the same approach and just decide, look, we're going to go with even the low bar Energy Star, which is still here, thankfully. Just that would be a good start. And then you can add layers to it if you wish. We're in the business of demonstrating high performance best practice, so we decided to do all the most important ones. And embracing new ones in every certifications. I mean, every chance we get, because we're trying to get people to adopt these as standard in their home building businesses and in their practices. And we want the design community, particularly the architects and the engineers, to hopefully encourage their builder customers to lean into this a bit more, and to the benefit of the home buyer and the public. So you get better houses, and it doesn't really matter if they're here in Southern California where we are, or for listeners in Florida, or in DC, Virginia, or, anywhere at all. Vancouver, Washington, it doesn't really matter. There's places where you have resilience issues and fire problems like Colorado and like here. This becomes much more critical, and safety becomes a priority. And in fairness, the state here has a very tough building code. They do say Title 24 might be it's certainly the hardest residential building code in America, arguably in the world. And some builders won't even build here because of it. I mean, it's massively, it's decisively different from other states' approach to what builders have to do to build a house for somebody to buy. If you're building a house in California, you could really argue you are already a green builder, like it or not, and that's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, even KB Homes is looking to move out of California.
I saw that.
As a company.
Well, I think that's got less. That may have less to do with the availability of drinking than it does the geopolitical climate.
No, you're right.
I mean, there are a lot of great companies who are moving around. But the good news about California, 40 million of us live here. There's a lot of great businesses here still. And we all have choices. KB's been an LA-based business for a very long time, and they're moving to Tempe, Arizona. But they're keeping all 6 of their California home building divisions intact, which is great news. And I remember years ago talking to the CEO at KB, about their decision early, mind you, to turn their company into a water-friendly, green, sustainable home building business. And this is a very huge business. And I remember thinking to myself, it might be easier to turn around an oil tanker in a bathtub than for this company to do that. But boy, was I ever wrong, because I've done exactly that. They continue to raise the bar. They are among a number of big, high-profile, successful home building businesses that have really embraced sustainability as part of their credo, part of their mantra.
Right.
And they've leaned into it in a very good way. And everything any home you buy from that company is water friendly, it's energy friendly, it's carefully thought out, they're well built. It's remarkable. And they undertook to do that themselves. And I think a lot of people were sniggering, going, yeah, sure, whatever, bring it. But but they certainly did it, and they're to be commended for it. They're a great company. They've been around a long time, and I don't think it really matters where their offices are, where they're based.
No, you're right.
Continue to build beautiful houses for American families, and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, for somebody who's not building a brand new home, but for working on their own home, what do you think is the most important thing they could be doing in terms of creating a more sustainable work product at the end of it? So, let's say they're renovating a kitchen or, doing a remodel. What are kind of some of the more applicable things that they should be focusing on?
Well, there's a few things that are just very simple that every remodeler is going to bring and introduce to anybody who's doing it, and anybody doing DIY. I mean, it's very easy to come up with a few things. One of the things that I love to do is, there's a business that we've been working with for almost all the years we've been in business. A local Larry Acker, with a company called ACT Metland, and they build a recirculating water pump, and these are not expensive, and you can retrofit these to any home. And what this does is, it's a simple premise. You go into the bathroom in the morning and you want to brush your teeth, and all of us, the first thing we do in our older houses, I live in a house that was built in 1969. I've been trying to bring as much sustainability to it as I can. One of the things I did first when I bought this about 25 years ago was introduce this feature. So you push a little button in the bathroom, and when the button goes green, then the hot water is already at the faucet. So you don't have to turn your shower on and then turn around and go brush your teeth and waste gallons and gallons of water going down the sink, because the water is being pushed through the pipe by the recirc pump from the tank to the outlet. And this is not an expensive technology. Any plumber can install it for any homeowner. That's a massive water savings, in any given month, never mind in a year. Imagine if everybody did that. Listen, I should mention, I'm not on Larry's board. I'm not a shareholder. I'm not, you ask for simple things, and that's one we reliably use, and we know that there's going to be an advantage gained when we go to get certified. The folks who certify our properties love to see these types of simple things deployed in the building. Other things are just when you're upgrading your kitchen, you're upgrading your bathroom or your ensuite. Think about the faucets. You have choices. And think about the toilets. You can have low flush, or you can't even get the old Thunder Mug toilets anymore. You got to go to states that aren't as water conscious, like Nevada or somewhere, to get an old style bathroom toilet. The modern ones are more effective than they used to be when they first came out, but they use considerably less water. And the faucets, Delta and Moen have both faced our project, and Delta products were in our ABC Greenhouse 4.0 project, and we used all their shower. The design team selected different things within the line, but we stayed on the WaterSense approved line from Delta, and that house is now an Airbnb, and nobody's ever complained about the shower pressure or the water pressure or any of that. So you can very easily take advantage of things just on the water side alone, just by making smart choices when you go to Home Depot, or if you're out doing a DIY project, or Lowe's or Canal Lumber, or anywhere you're going to buy that type of equipment, or have your remodeler or your design team people advocate for a WaterSense approved setup, and you're going to be better off doing it.
You're right.
That's just on the water.
No, you're right. One thing. Well, I was looking for a larger house, and went in, and they said that it's really nice and everything, and they have solar. Hey, pretty good. So what's the electric bill utility look like? And they said they had to get back to me. They came back and they gave me the price of the bill that goes to the electric company. I said, so what do you pay the solar company who put it in? Well, come to find out, there's 15 years left on the agreement, and if you buy the house, you have to assume that you're taking over. That's part of the deal. You got to take over the thing, your contract. At the end of 15 years more to go, they had to pay $125,000.
Yeah,
and you still had to pay by the month. So yes, you got an electric bill from the public utilities, but then you still got to pay off this thing. Now that wasn't so well. It was kind of bad to me. Second part of that is the company filed Chapter 11.
right.
And so they don't provide any service for the product at all. And then they top that off. If anything goes wrong, you can't buy parts from them or anything.
No.
So they sold their contracts off to some finance company who's taking over the contracts. Just pay me money every month. And so if I wanted to buy that house, I had to get stuck with that bill at the end pay $125,000. That was ridiculous. But brings a point that I was going to get to here. When you go buy or upgrade, because people upgrade their homes and do retrofits and things, you got to be careful when you go out and you put some of these things in from companies that you never heard of, and check them out. Even in the business I was in with irrigation controllers, there's lots of companies that say they make smart controllers, and some are really good and some are not. And some of them are the little companies don't stay in business too long. So you can buy, you spend $100 or $200 to buy a smart controller from a little tiny company, and you find out in 2 years they went out of business and you're stuck. You can't do anything. So my advice to people who are going to upgrade and go for the better green and sustainable products, check the manufacturer out of the product that you're going to want, and just to make sure it's going to be that they're going to be around. I've never bashed on my competitors in the industry because they're big companies, been in business a long time. And if you buy from the top companies like Delta and Moen and stuff like that, that's good. Same thing with irrigation equipment. You buy from Toro, you buy from Hunter, you buy from Rainbird. Those are names that have been around for a long time, and you're assured that they're not going out of business. They got money, and you'll be better off buying something from a prestigious company that's going to be around and help you. So that's my tip for people listening in. It's good to go green, but you got to have the companies behind it. So anyway, we're up against the news hour. Nick, I appreciate you coming on the show. We want to have you back after your house is constructed, and this is a different house. It's not a cookie cutter kind of thing. It's more of a custom home. Is that correct?
Yeah, folks are welcome to follow the project. Two websites real quick. Builder.media, not .com. Builder.media is our business, and all of our platforms are available there. You can cruise through them. And the ABC Green Home, the American Buildable Certified Green Home, is abcgreenhome.com. And folks are welcome to sign up and get regular updates. And there's a lot of people from the public following in, and we're sharing it across the industry. And we're very pleased to have a chance to share it with everybody who's interested in cost cutting, the energy savings, and money saving measures to live in a better house.
Yeah, I agree.
Ready to be on the air again. Thanks for having me back. I'd love to give you regular updates for the meeting.
Yes, do that. All right. Thanks. We got to go. And for all our listeners, Tara, you want to say it?
If you like green, you got to have blue.